Okay. Right. Good Tavach. Afreilich Tavach. I want to share a few stories with you tonight. Want to begin with the story that's just happened most recently this week in Israel. Unfortunately, there was a boy from Ashkelon who was at a picnic with his father and two sisters. 4-year-old boy, Yuval Kogan, became missing. And it was a search for this boy. And the search parties went out to look for him unsuccessfully. And as the minutes ticked by, it became more and more dangerous as this boy is in a area um, behind the beach where he was lost. It was these dunes and then dense vegetation, and very difficult to find him. And his mother, noted pediatrician, was thinking that he was abducted. God forbid. He was scared of water. She didn't think he would go near the water, but maybe he was abducted. It's very frightening. And Baruch Hashem, he was found healthy, and after going to the hospital, he was released shortly afterwards. He was okay. He was discovered by a man named Natanel Biton, who was riding on his horse, a Breslov Chassid, and he there's a little short video of him finding the boy and calling the police. And he had gotten lost with his horse, and he had met this boy, Baruch Hashem, and boy is now safe and sound back with his parents. Very in sync with the Shabbos that we just came from, Shabbos Nachamu, Shabbos of comfort. Imagine the comfort of parents seeing their son come back home to them. And this is the comfort we're looking for, which will not just be a comfort for us, but when Mashiach comes, will be a comfort for Hashem himself to see all of his children come home. So I wanted to share with you amazing stories about faith in Hashem and trust in Hashem. One of the stories I want to share with you, I had heard many times, and it's a story that you can't really believe because it just defies the way we think. So maybe before I share that story, I'll share a more global, incredible story, and we'll go from the global story to this amazing, miraculous story that's hard to believe. Din Steinsaltz said that he was once by a Farbrengen, Shlomo Chaim Kesselman, and he was inspired. And he said, I didn't really enjoy listening to Rabbi Kesselman, but this time I did enjoy, and I was trying to figure out why was I inspired by Rabbi Kesselman. I always considered what he said to be boring. And Rabbi Steinsaltz said that the purpose of a Farbrengen, the purpose of a Hasidic gathering is to clean our ears out, to help open us up to believe and to trust and to connect. So to open up our ears to the featured story that I wanted to share, let's talk about Perestroika. Let's talk about the revolution in Russia in the 80s, when Russia allowed so many Jews to emigrate to Israel. How did it start? So Dr. David Lukens, who serves many years in the political science chair in Torah University, for many years he worked for a senator named Pat Moynihan, and he said that there was always, every year, they had a huge demonstration against the Soviets, against the Iron Curtain. How dare they not let Jews keep Torah mitzvahs? How dare they not let Jews leave Russia? And this was something that the Rebbe was a das yachid. He was the only one who opposed to this activism. The Rebbe said that this is something which actually hurts the Jews in Russia. Whenever there's a protest, this causes the KGB to arrest people and to attack people, calling the Soviets names, making public demonstrations in Times Square. The Rebbe said is actually detrimental to the plight of Jews in Soviet Russia, and it should not be done. And this was something that was contrary to the opinion of the major organized Jewish organizations in America, as well as the right-wing political camp. And the Rebbe was alone in this. Everyone else thought this was the way to go. Protest, 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 and then the Soviets will open the doors. Um, Henry Kissinger actually once told Pat Moynihan, had we listened to the rabbi, the Jews would have been released from Soviet Russia years before.
Oh, I've heard.
So Pat Moynihan, he got a message from a man named Max Kumpelman, who was involved in the arms purchases in the United States, and he was in touch with Gorbachev in 1985. And Gorbachev said that the Soviets are interested in discussing immigration again. And all the advice that Pat Moynihan got, Dave Lukens was served on his cabinet for many years, and he said he was getting a lot of pressure, a lot of people telling him, "Don't talk to Gorbachev, don't have any compromise, don't have any negotiations with him, don't trust him, leave him alone." Now, David Lukin said that he consulted himself with his Rebbe, Rabbi Aaron Soloveitchik, by Yasher Ber Soloveitchik, who Rabbi Yasher Ber Soloveitchik knew the Rebbe from college, and he told David Lukens, the only one you can trust in this is the Rebbe. The Rebbe is from Soviet Russia. The Rebbe knows Soviet Russia. Don't listen to anybody else. He's the only one you could trust. David Lukin said there were other two very famous Litvische Gedolim, very famous noted rabbis from the Litvische camp, and they also came. They also told David Lukens that if you want to know how to help the Jews in Soviet Russia, what you want to do is you want to get advice from the Rebbe. I saw in Elie Wiesel's memoirs, he also speaks disdainfully, unfortunately, about the Rebbe's stance against protests. And Elie Wiesel was not unique. The Rebbe was the only one who was against the protests. Everyone else was saying that you should protest and protest and protest. So when Gorbachev called Max Hempelman and he suggested there would be a discussion about immigration, so everyone's advice was that Gorbachev should be shunned. They shouldn't talk to him. They shouldn't negotiate with him. But through David Lukens, Pat Moynihan asked the Rebbe what to do. Senator Moynihan asked the Rebbe what to do, and the Rebbe said that they should talk to him, and they should tell him that they're going to cancel the annual protest against the Soviets, the annual protest that was done by American Jews in Times Square in Manhattan. The annual protests are going to be canceled because of this new development and new negotiations. That's the Rebbe said that they should do. They should tell Gorbachev that they want to talk to him, and they know that Gorbachev is interested in revoking the Jackson Vanik and amendment and the other amendments that were made that barred a lot of Soviet trade until there will be an allowance for Jewish immigration. And they know that they were interested in discussing it. And the Rebbe said they should tell Gorbachev that the reason they're canceling this protest is because they believe in this new initiative that Gorbachev is reaching out. And David Lukin said that Pat Moynihan penned a letter to Gorbachev that was signed by 57 senators. And all the senators were saying this letter, he said, was edited by the Rebbe. The Rebbe suggested some changes to the letter. And the letter was signed by all these senators telling Gorbachev that they appreciate his efforts and they do want to discuss immigration and they're going and this was the offer to Gorbachev. This protest against you is going to be canceled. Now, that was what the Rebbe suggested. But all the American organized Jewish organizations called Pat Moynihan and Hoover Humphrey, and they said to him, "You guys are crazy. This is wrong. We have to. Don't trust him. Don't trust him. Don't trust him." But Pat Moynihan stood his ground, and this thing was canceled. And Baruch Hashem, this started opening the doors in Soviet Russia. That's when Sharansky came out, and others Baruch Hashem came out, until the actual migration of all those who wanted to leave Soviet Russia and to come to Israel. It as Kissinger said to Pat Moynihan, had we listened to the rabbi, this would have happened years before. The Rebbe's stance of just not protesting but using quiet diplomacy proved to be correct. So Dave Lukens, he said that people don't understand the contribution that the Rebbe made to the emancipation of all of these hundreds of thousands of Jews. It was directly because of the Rebbe's connection to David Lukens and Pat Moynihan that this all happened, because of the efforts in quiet diplomacy instead of the previous stance of organized Jewish organizations to protest and protest. Anyways, that was story number one, which we all are very familiar with. We saw how Russia suddenly opens its doors in the late 80s, and but we didn't necessarily attribute this to the Rebbe's efforts behind the scenes. We all know that the Rebbe had emissaries teaching Torah and Judaism underground in Soviet Russia, but the Rebbe also was directly involved in the political efforts to allow Jews to emigrate from Soviet Russia. That's the first I wanted to share, and it just shows us the kind of faith that a Jew has to have in a tzaddik, especially a tzaddik who is the Moshe Rabbeinu, the Moses of our times. And that brings me to story number two, about Rabbi Tuvia Bloy. Rabbi Tuvia Bloy was a noted author and chassid, and worked for many years in the leadership of Chabad in Israel. And he and his wife, unfortunately, were not blessed with children for many years. They were it was about 3 years after their wedding, 1958, and they were upset. He didn't come from a Hasidic family, and when he became close to Hasidus, he was very active in helping others learn about Hasidus. And when his wife and himself were celebrating his wife's birthday, and his wife was so upset that she didn't have a child, and he told the Rebbe, I think this may have a detrimental effect on my efforts to make our home a Chabad home. I want our family to have a Hasidic home, but I don't think it's going to happen in the current conditions where my wife and I are not blessed with children. That's what he wrote to the Rebbe. He wrote to the Rebbe many times to ask for a blessing for children. And the Rebbe just said to him, ask al tzim, which means I'll mention you in prayer by my father-in-law's gravesite. Not a direct promise, not a direct blessing. And he wanted more. And so when his wife was so upset that day on her birthday, he wrote this letter to the Rebbe. The Rebbe responded. I'm paraphrasing from the original Hebrew. The Rebbe wrote a letter back, not to him. The Rebbe wrote a letter back to his wife. Hold on one second. Sorry about that, guys. The Rebbe wrote a letter back to his wife, not to him. His wife never wrote to the Rebbe, but Rebbe wrote her a letter. And this is what they wrote to her. In response to notification to your husband, may he live and be well, about your birthday, may it be God's will that this coming year should be for you a good year, a successful year, and an open and clear goodness. It's understood and it's obvious that the more you will strengthen your trust in Hashem, the creator of the world, and the one who governs the world, who takes care of every individual man and woman with personal attention, the more you strengthen your trust in him, the more God's blessings will be added to you in this world, and the amount of blessing and success will grow. It's known the instruction of our Torah, the Torah of life, that a person is meant to be happy and have gladness of heart. because all the days of man, all the hours of man, all the moments of man's life are meant to be dedicated to the service of God. And God says, serve God with joy and gladness of heart. And how much more so is this true for a woman who is called by the Torah the mainstay of the home, the foundation of the home. And we see clearly the Rebbe says that the mood in a home depends in large measure in the mood of the wife. And a blessing could only rest when there is joy. And since we are commanded to do this, it is certainly possible, especially if you will think even for a short while about God's kindness with you and with your husband in the past. And certainly God will continue to show you kindness in the future. Again, the vessel to draw down God's blessing and to receive God's blessing is to have a powerful trust in God and to have simcha pnimis amitis, to have an inner and true joy, and be God's will that God will fulfill your heart's desire to have in this year. May it be God's will that in this year your heart's desire will be fulfilled for good, to have zerach chai v'kayama, to have live, good children. So they were so emotional to get this letter from the Rebbe because, I mean, obviously the tone of the letter itself is a very powerful idea. Just thinking about it, the more you trust in Hashem, the more the blessings will come down. If you're happy, happiness brings blessings. Powerful idea. But more than all that, incomparably more than all that, is the line, this year you're going to have a child. You know, that's a pretty strong promise. And sure enough, 9 months later, in 1959, on the month of Kislev, they had their first son, Yaakov Meir. Now, I mentioned that the Rebbe only wrote a letter to her, or so they thought. Ramendel Futafas used to say, if you question the Rebbe, it's like, the Gemara says, if you question your Rebbe, it's like questioning Hashem. Ramendel Futafas used to say, there are things that come directly from the Rebbe, and things that come through the Rebbe's secretariat. And so that also, you shouldn't question it. Also, there's things that happen may come through many different channels, but questioning and second guessing is also questioning Hashem. Case in point, he thought he didn't get a letter from the Rebbe, and he had written a letter to the Rebbe about moving to a new apartment. After Baruch Hashem, they were blessed with more than one child. The apartment came too small, but the Rebbe didn't respond to his request to move. So he stayed in that apartment for many years. And he discovered only in 1990, when the Rebbe's letters became printed, volume 17 was printed, there he saw that the Rebbe did respond to his letter. And the Rebbe wrote, not only did the Rebbe respond to his wife, the Rebbe also wrote another letter as well. The Rebbe said like this, in response to your letter in which you write about your wife's mood, that she's sometimes sad, etc., certainly you could explain to her the idea of trusting in Hashem, the creator of the world, who takes care of everybody, but personally to every man and woman with divine providence, and there's no place void of him. And how could a Jewish man or woman who are close to Hashem, close to a king, a great king, and a good king, a truly good king, there's no place void of God. So how could there really be sadness of a Jewish man and woman who are in the presence with the king who is so good and is really good? It's obvious, the Rebbe says, that there's no reason for them to worry and nothing to be afraid of when they're in the presence of the king. They're in the Dal Amas, they're in the 4 cubits, they're in the presence of the king. It's obvious that in the presence of the king, there's nothing to be afraid of. And the analog is understood. The parable of the king is understood who that applies to Hashem. We're literally in the place of Hashem. Especially, this is not an analog. This is the reality, truly, mamish. This is the way it is. But it's a much, much more than this, incomparably more than this. Rebbe says, I'm telling you, it's like a king. You're in the presence of a really good king, but it's way more than that, incomparably more. As we say in our prayers, there's no one who has any comparison to you. Then there adds, regarding your home, if you should move, in generally the Rebbe says you should consider your opinion, the opinion of your wife, who is the mainstay of the home. And since a home causes one's mind to become broadened and expands your mind, don't be concerned about taking a modest loan for this, because that's the way the world runs. So he read this letter about 1958 is when he wrote the letter, and he got the letter. It was printed in the Rebbe's 17th volume of his letters in 1990s when he discovered that the Rebbe sent him a letter back. So for 33 years, they're in this apartment, and at that time, this new opportunity came for them to move out, and so they moved to Shchunat Neve Yaakov, where he served as a rabbi to the Chabad synagogue. It came at the right time when he was able to move actually as Rebbe instructed. That's story number two. Now, these two stories I shared with you, I wanted to share with them to you to open your ears up to the featured story for tonight, a story which I heard many times, and I heard different versions of it. It's so hard to believe. But Baruch Hashem, I just saw in the Deher magazine a few months ago, this story was printed directly from the person who the story happened with, Bechaim Malul, Rebbe's emissary in Paris. Rabbi Malul had an acquaintance who he encouraged to, told Rabbi Malul, I'm going to visit New York. So Rabbi Malul said to him, it's a true story. It's direct. You can read it. It's printed. It's an unbelievable story. Are you ready? Okay, good. I think I did enough drum rolling. Rabbi Malul had this acquaintance who told him that he's going to go to New York. So Rabbi Malul said to him, you're going to New York. It's worthwhile. You should try to have an audience with the Rebbe. So I was like, okay, that sounds like a good idea. I could do that. And so Rabbi Malul arranged for him to have a personal audience with the Rebbe. And this fellow spent Shabbos in 770 as well. And when the Rebbe farbrenged on Shabbos, the Rebbe would give out bottles of vodka for individuals who were making a celebration. Like, let's say your daughter was getting married that week, you'd come up to the Rebbe and you'd say, I want a blessing for I'm making a wedding this week. The Rebbe would give you a bottle of vodka to celebrate the wedding. So you would bring the bottle to the Rebbe's secretariat before Shabbos, and on Shabbos you'd come up and the Rebbe would pour it from his cup into the bottle. You distribute some of it at the Farbrengen, and then you would use the rest of it at the occasion for why you had brought the bottle. So this guy, he didn't know any better, so he just said, okay, everyone's going to get mashka. I'll get mashka too. I'll get vodka too. It's from the Rebbe. What a great idea. So he went up and nobody stopped him. And the Rebbe handed him a bottle of mashka, and to his surprise, the Rebbe said to him, this is for the wedding. The Rebbe even said it in French, this is for the wedding. When he came back to France, he told Rabbi Malul, must be a mistake. I'm married already. Rebbe gave me a blessing for a marriage. I'm already married. Rabbi Malul told him, there's no such thing. The Rebbe doesn't make mistakes. But nothing happened, and the bottle sat on the shelf. Now, Rabbi Malul said to him that the custom is that when you get something from the Rebbe, you don't sell it if it's not kosher for Passover. You don't sell it with the chametz. You don't want something from the Rebbe to be sold to a non-Jew. So if you get food from the Rebbe, you get a piece of honey cake, as Rebbe would distribute, or a bottle of mashka, a bottle of vodka, which is not kosher for Passover. You eat it yourself before Passover. You don't want this to go in the jurisdiction of a non-Jew. That's the custom. So he told this guy, he knew about the bottle, he knew that this guy didn't know what it was for, he put it on the shelf. He said to him, you got to consume this bottle before Passover. So the guy decided, okay, I'll make a party, and I'll share the bottle with my friends. But his wife wasn't feeling so well, so he couldn't make the party in his home as he originally planned. So he rented a hall in a local shul. He hired a caterer, he invited his friends, it's all set. And day of the event, everyone's inside the hall, and the rabbi of the shul walks in. The rabbi says, we need a minyan for a chuppah. There's a wedding taking place right now. We need to have a minyan. We need 10 men so that we could make the chuppah in the proper way. So the guests were happy to help. So they came into the sanctuary of the shul. They left from the hall of the shul to the sanctuary of the shul. And who was there? The whole wedding party. Who was the whole wedding party? The groom, the bride, and the rabbi. That's all. The chuppah takes place, and the host of the event, he asked the couple, do you have any party taking place anywhere? They said no. So after everyone reconvened in the hall, this friend of Rabbi Malul asked everyone to be quiet. He wanted to share something. What did you share? You share with him. The Rebbe gave me this bottle of vodka, and he told me it's for a wedding. And how would he know that I would actually take this bottle and use this today, and we're actually celebrating a wedding together? When he concluded, now I thought there was a mistake, but now I know that the Rebbe doesn't make mistakes. When he finished, the bride gets up, and the bride said like this: my first marriage ended in terrible chaos. My whole family became estranged from me, and my new husband is a ger tzedek, is a convert, and so he doesn't have any family either. So going into this marriage, I'm really alone. My family is estranged from me, and my husband doesn't have any relatives. So I wrote a letter to the Rebbe. I asked him, give me a sign, something to show me that this was the right choice. Give me a sign this is the right choice. And now she said, I think the Rebbe answered me. I think that this is the sign. Bottom line is, my friends, to strengthen our trust in Hashem, strengthen our trust in Moshe Rabbeinu and the Moses of our times in the Rebbe, and the Rebbe's clear words about our time being a time of Mashiach, our time being a time of redemption. This the whole world right now is all centered on the Strait of Hormuz. What's going to happen in the Strait of Hormuz? Is Hormuz going to open? Is Hormuz going to close? The Gemara, the Talmud says that there was an idol called Hormuz, an idol called Hormun. And there were the people that worship both idols. One idol, one god, one deity was the god of good, and one deity was the god of bad. They believe there's more than one god. There's god of good and god of bad. That's the Strait of Hormuz is named after this god. The Talmud says that there was one sage who met this idol worshiper, and the idol worshiper told the sage, you should know that there are two entities that control the world, and man from waist up was created by Hormun, and man from waist down was created by Hormuz. There's a good God and a bad God, and they create different parts of man. So the rabbi responded, if that is the case, then how come Hormuz allows Hormun to allow water to pass through his territory? In other words, Rabbi was saying, tongue in cheek, that the digestive system of a human being proves that there aren't two entities, and man, a human being, is one cohesive system. That's what the rabbi responded. And the mistake of these idol worshippers is very simple. They think that Hashem is involved in the good things in our life. That's the good God, the Hormun. And the other things going on in our life there must be some other force. That's their mistake. When the previous Rebbe was arrested and the gun was placed next to his temple by the KGB officer, he told the previous Rebbe, this toy is a way of making people speak. And the previous Rebbe responded, this toy can only frighten someone who has two gods in one world. But someone who has one world and two gods, someone had too much L'chaim today. Someone who knows that there's only one God and believes in two worlds, this toy does not mean a thing, and neither man nor demon has ever been born or will be born that can frighten me and that can move me from my principles. The KGB officer took the gun away from the previous Rebbe's temple and put it down. The previous Rebbe's words about there being one God seemed to be incongruous to what his message was. He was telling the officer, I'm not afraid of your gun because I believe in two worlds. If there are two worlds, not one, then the gun is not supreme. But why did Rebbe emphasize the idea of two gods versus one God? What he was saying was, you might think that when good things happen, in your hands the good God. When bad things happen, in the hands of the bad God. So now I'm in the KGB office, interrogator's office, I'm in the hands of the bad God. The previous Rebbe said, I don't believe in two gods. I believe in one God. All there is one God. And therefore, since all there is one God, you're not an entity. All you are is something that is being created by the one God. And Hashem's truth and Hashem's providence, as the Rebbe writes in this letter to Rabbi Bloy, we're in the presence of the King who is good, nothing to be afraid of. There's nothing else. All there is him. All there is Hashem who is good, nothing else. And therefore, you're not an entity. You don't exist. There's nothing there's nothing other than Hashem making things happen right now. Therefore, I'm not afraid of your God. In a similar way, the Straits of Hormuz, I think, represent spiritually that we segregate in our minds and we say, this is from Hashem, this is not from Hashem. But the concentration of the whole world in the Straits of Hormuz need to be opened. I think that what that means spiritually is that we cannot just think that Hashem is connected to parts of our life, not connected to other parts of our life. He's only connected to things which are good, not things which we don't understand. There are lonely moments when I'm alone without Hashem. Mashiach is coming, and part of the events of the world that are happening now before Mashiach is coming, she may come immediately, is the gates, the Straits of Hormuz have to open, which on a spiritual, personal level means to me that we have to stop segregating God to being involved in only things that we understand. That we're in a difficult situation and we don't know how things are going to work out. If to strengthen our trust in Hashem, open up the Straits of Hormuz. Don't believe that you're in some other God's power. You're only in the presence of Hashem. And when Mashiach comes, we'll see immediately. When Mashiach comes, we'll see how we're always in Hashem's loving hands, and there was never anything to be afraid of. So may Hashem help us all. We should strengthen our trust in Hashem, and we should see not only the Straits of Hormuz open physically, but we should see them open spiritually. Hashem should reveal His presence in the whole world. Coming Mashiach Tzedekenu, b'karav mamish. So I wanted to share. Gvach Lindsay, Gvach Hillel, Gvach Beryl, Gvach Baruch. All right. Questions, comments, criticism. Okay, good Gvach.
Thank you. That's great.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Shavua Tov.
Shavua Tov. Yes, Hillel. Gvach.